300,000 miles. That's quite an accomplishment. Let's try to go another 300,000, Jeepy. Good job. Look who's back for a visit. Happy birthday, Jeepy. You're 30 years old. We'll no longer be saying almost 30. Alright, here's the leak in our transmission return line. That's a swaged fitting right here, where the rigid tube connects to the rubber. So we're going to change this out. We got a Dorman, but this leak really is causing a mess, as you can see. And right here where the rigid tube matches up with the rubber piece on the transmission return line, we have a battlefield repair. Somebody has removed the quick disconnect fitting, used a hose clamp here. That's a totally acceptable repair. Don't ever talk shit about somebody that does something like this. Those quick disconnects are for ease of installation at the factory. Out here in the real world, this is a perfectly acceptable coupling of this rigid line and this rubber tube. But when we take it apart, we're going to have to see what happened under here. If the nipple end of this has been cut off, our new Dorman replacement line will not fit to that. And I'm not going to cut off a brand new quick disconnect fitting. So let's start by taking that apart. Alright, transmission fluid is for operation, lubrication, but it's also for cooling. That's what these lines are for. So that transmission's pumping out pressurized fluid through this feed line. It's going up into the radiator, then it returns on this line. So this whole system is pressurized. I'm not a scientist that's an expert in fluid dynamics, but I do know that some fluid's hopefully going to come out of here. So I got a pan under here. I don't remember if I did this repair, but most likely it was me. This front end got totally destroyed in an accident. And also this engine fell down and took out the other line. Okay, there's the nipple I'm talking about. So this is still a serviceable rigid line. Our new Dorman replacement with the quick disconnect is just going to lock right there on that one. There's two clamps holding this tube in place. 8mm. All right, here's the second one. And here's a little feature Jeep has to hold these lines together. This replacement line from Dorman's about $65. But usually you're doing an engine change or changing your radiator, you're not expecting to have to replace this thing. Right. All right, this is the fitting that holds the transmission line to the transmission. It's got a quick disconnect fitting on there. This Jeep's 30 years old. The little plastic piece in this Jeep is 30 years old. The chances of this not cracking into 1,000 fucking pieces when it comes apart is about 0. So I bought a new one. All right, see these two tabs in there? 1, 2. Those little tabs are what holds this to the tube and keeps it in place. To release the tube, you need to push those two tabs out of the way. And these are the tools required to do this. So think about this. To push those two tabs out of the way and then the tube to be removed, your tool, the diameter that you're going to use has to be bigger than that crimped nipple on the end. And then you slide it down the tube, pushes those apart, and the tube comes out. So some applications are tight clearance, and that's what this tool is for. And this one is where you got a little more room. But this tool is going to slide in there and push those tabs apart, allowing the tube to release. All right, there's our fitting. And of course, it's in a place where it's not very easy to get to. So we want this tool to be just a little bit wider than the tube diameter, so it'll release those two clips when it comes flush with that nipple. Now, as you can see, you don't have much room to work with here. And then you got to get mechanical advantage on this tool with your hand and push it in there. And that's why this is a pain in the ass. See that? I can't even get my hand in a position to push that in. But we will persevere and get this thing off. Okay, I can't get any mechanical advantage on this from the position my body's in. I'm going to have to reposition everything. Okay, this fitting is a 7/8. Now I can get in there with this wrench and replace this. And this will rotate with the tube staying stationary. I'm just not going to fuck with that, okay? We'll look at it out here after I get it out. Alright, here's our new fitting. This just screws into the transmission. We're going to take this 7/8 and just rotate this thing around the tube and get this thing off here. Even getting this wrench on here is a pain in the ass. Okay, there it's loose. See how that's rotating around the tube? This is an option for you, which I recommend actually. If we weren't to replace this, with that sitting right in front of you, you might be able to get it apart without destroying it, okay? I can't even get my hand up in here. Don't do all this work and then realize you've disconnected the wrong one. That's something I would do. My visual clue, though, that this is the right one is that the other one's already been changed like this. So the pressurized fluid re-entering the pan here should be at a level below this opening, so we shouldn't have much fluid coming out of here, but I'm going to be ready for it anyway. But a good discussion to have here is don't overfill your transmission, because then the rotating parts rotate in the fluid, stirring it up and making foam, and then your transmission isn't going to shift right. So that's why you don't want to overfill it. So it's pressurized until it enters right here, since this is the return line. If you could get your fucking hand in there, maybe you could twist it off, but there's no fucking room for that. There we go, and there's our fluid. Alright, when we pull this line out, there's still fluid in this. And we don't want to spend 2 hours cleaning up. So I'm going to put this rubber glove over. Shit. And there she is, removed. All right. Don't forget about this extra fluid in here. You're going to make a mess. Alright, here's the Dorman replacement Jeep transmission cooler line. It's the return. See, part number 624-301. You can get these at the auto parts store. They're just getting them from Dorman. Alright, let's open this up. With this battlefield repair here, I thought I was sold the wrong part. But there's no other this, so looks like it's a good one-for-one swap out. Metal tabs on this one. I'm happy. Alright, one more thing. Inside there's an O-ring. Now the fluid in these lines is pressurized, but it's not pressurized to the point where it's gonna go past that O-ring. That's just an O-ring in there. Okay? If you got fluid spitting out past the O-ring, you got a clog somewhere, and the pump is pushing fluid into a clog, and it's spitting out past this O-ring. So this one's a very tight fit in there, but you can get in there and replace that O-ring with picks or O-ring tools. So before you go running and buying a new line, you can at least give the O-ring replacement a try. But from experience, most likely you're pushing into a clog, and that's why the fluid's spitting out past the O-ring. If it was high pressure, it wouldn't be an O-ring, it would be a B-nut fitting. So here's the tools to get that out, and it's not easy, but somebody put it in there. They don't have elves working at the factory. Alright, well, we got this right in front of our face. Let's swap this over. That's a nice little feature. Alright, this Jeep had a vibration in the front end, and it eventually led to the motor mount bolts working their way loose. Then they snapped off. That caused the engine to fall down, and it smashed the pressure line. And here's the damage to that. So during the replacement of this line, I had the most difficult time getting this fitting off, even with it out of the vehicle right in front of me like this. And that was because that piece of plastic was brittle. When I stuck the tool in there, it cracked. So if you ever want some comedy, watch me trying to get that fitting apart. It's in my video with the engine mount. Alright, let's just talk about this real quick. See that bend right there? Sometimes that bend's so close you can't get your tool on there. That's why they make this tighter clearance tool. Alright, here's the lip that we have to make the clips unhook from. So by inspection you can see your tool has to be bigger than that little nipple right there. So that one's gonna work. That one might work. You might get lucky in that one if you got it in the right position. Now that one might be the exact one we need right there. See that? That'll unhook the clips and push it off. That'll unhook the clips, but if we're in the wrong position, I'm going to try this one first. That'll unhook it enough to push it over. Okay, that won't fit in there, so we're gonna have to go with this one. Okay, I'm trying the next size down. Okay, I don't have time to play with this right now. Some of these you can squeeze and get off. They're made to just squeeze it. But I've gotten this one off before with one of these tools. But anyway, we'll come back to that later. I'm going to get a vise out. We'll put it in the vise. When it's in the vehicle, you got the mechanical advantage of having this stationary and you can pull it out. Perhaps that's why we're not getting it out here. So you can see how those fittings can slow you down. If you thought you were going to be done in an hour, that's why it took you 2 hours. All right, here's our new fitting. Put a little O-ring lube on this. Even threading this new one in here is a pain in the ass with it in situ like this. Alright, 7/8, tighten that bad boy down. That's it on that part. All right, note to self. These quick disconnect fittings are for factory installation. They don't care if they come apart once the thing's off the showroom floor. Make sure this is properly routed before you hook this up, especially this end. Got it? Okay, feed it in the correct way. I already started putting it in the ass backwards. Get in there. Good, good, good. Okay. Don't do it. Don't hook that up until everything is routed right, the clamps are tightened down, and you're happy. You think you're going to hook that and help hold it in place. Don't. Okay, the way this tube is bent, it has to go on the top. The opportunity to do this wrong exists, but you really have to do some work to get it backwards. So we're going to drive that clamp home right like that. Return line on the top. Okay, here's our line. Okay, that's pretty obvious the way that goes. And then we'll plug it in right there. Good job, Dorman. Okay, this nipple will fit right in there when we're all done. The reason I'm telling you this is because I had this backwards. Intuitively, you think this should be up on top. Like that. So if I would have stuck that in there, I'd be screaming right now. Measure twice, cut once, something along those lines. Okay. All right, wish me luck. Oh, crap. Nothing's easy. That does not want to lock in there. Oof. That's a problem. Okay, is that it? Okay. That tube is not exactly bent right, but it's close enough. Okay, this new tube isn't exactly a good fit for this. But it's close enough. Now when I put this clamp on, I don't want to position this so that it causes a leak. So I gotta be careful here. It's gonna have to go this way. See what I mean? We don't want to cause clamping to lead to a leak. It's going to have to be just like that. Alright, so we're going to bend the clamp to take the strain off of this tube. Now that I got it tight, let me check it one time. Alright, that's tight. The next guy is going to have to be smart enough to bend this back out of the way. Okay. That's taking the strain off of this new installation. It's holding it in place. And we're going to call that good to go. I can look at this. Let's see that it's secure. All right. Let's get the other side. All right, we've moved to the front. Let's connect this. Good clearance on our rotating mass right here. Check the tightness of this clamp. Okay, time to leak check. Okay, that leak. All right, our new installation is not leaking. This smoke is from other issues. All right, this is pretty funny. Looks like my son dropped this off with no fuel in it. This is about ready to run out of gas. I just spilled more gas than would have evaporated into the atmosphere. Who's the genius that came up with this fucking thing? Alright, I just got some gas. This is warmed up. Take a final leak check before we service the transmission fluid level. Right there, that looks good. There's the swage fitting that was leaking on the old one. Looks good. Alright, there's the transmission fitting. No leaks there. Where the transmission line plugs in at the quick disconnect, that looks good. I'm happy with this now. Alright, as usual, it's a beautiful day here, Pacific Northwest. Okay, we got the vehicle level, fluid levels for operation, cooling, lubrication. Lubrication's the key on this. If you overfill it, the rotating mass is going to churn up the fluid, make foam. Foam's going to get pumped into everywhere and it won't shift correctly. So don't overfill it. We have nothing indicated on our dipstick. Alright, that pan capacity's small, so it fills up quick. Don't put more than a half quart in there at a time. That's a half quart right there. So there'll be some fluid that's still in the tube, but you'll see the level by a nice line on your dipstick. I'm going to let this sit for a little while and then do a final check on this fluid level. In the meantime, let's take a look at this quick disconnect fitting that we couldn't get apart. Alright, here's the old line. Here's where we had the leak. And here's where we had a battlefield repair on this. I'm sure it was probably me that did that. So I got a great battlefield repair story. My father-in-law Rudolfo. His nickname was Ben, rest in peace. He was the machinist on a ship, and a gear lost some teeth somehow, and I forget all the details, but for this story they couldn't navigate back into the port, so he welded a bead where the missing gear teeth were, and with a file out there at sea filed the gear teeth, reinstalled it, and it worked well enough to get them into port. So Ben, good job. You got an attaboy for that. Probably not any extra pay because you're a machinist and they expected you to do that, but it was sure a great story. All right, so let's try to get this thing apart before we conclude this video. All right, the tool we're going to use is this one. Fits around the tube, but it's bigger than the nipple. And there it is. See how easy that is? When it's right in your face like that, that's how this works. See that? So at the factory, for ease of installation, they drop that transmission in and somebody just pushes that line in there. And this is the correct tool. It's a little bit bigger than that nipple that's crimped in the end there. And with mechanical advantage of your hands, right in your face, push it in. Those two plastic pieces are separated. I can tell that by the feel when this went in. And there it comes out. And there's what I'm talking about. The tool being just a little bit bigger than that nipple on there. So that didn't come apart in 100 pieces like I thought. That's actually still serviceable. So you make your own decisions on how to attack this issue. All right, that's it.